Good morning, everybody. Glad to see you here on LinkedIn. Everybody make sure you smack that share button and the like buttons and everything else. Good to have you here. Today is Wednesday. Let me look at my iPhone. Oh my God, today is Wednesday. There you go, June 24th. Glad to see everybody here. Glad you could join us, Dr. Abdullah. Great to have you here. How's the weather in Saudi Arabia? I'm going to guess hot. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. And Sidra Our House, San Francisco. One of my last holidays right before COVID kicked in was going to see Hamilton, believe it or not, in San Francisco, and going backstage because one of the dancers. Probably one of the most important pieces of news I can give everybody, Disney Plus will be showing Hamilton live, well, not live, but recorded, the original cast on July 3rd. There will be a viewing party at the Mall Household if you want to fly down to Jacksonville or drive. Coming out, taking in my backyard. I will be singing along with my kids to every single song. One of my favorite plays of all time. There we go, giving Hamilton a lot of shout outs. With that, let's jump in and get going, everybody. As I mute my own computer so I don't have to hear my own voice. There we go. Welcome to the 58th episodes, people. 58th episode of FinTech Insider, the Breakfast Show US. I'm Sam Maul, 11FS Managing Director, North America. I'll be your host for this morning's show. Please let us know where you're watching from. I know I've already got Dr. Abdullah in from Saudi Arabia. We got Sidhar sitting out in San Francisco. Give your place a shout out. We'll mention it on the show. We'd love to hear where you're based. And also, most importantly, share the link to the stream. So that little share all in white font. Click on that thing, let your network know, hit the like buttons, and most importantly, subscribe to 11FS on LinkedIn so you never miss a show, and also to our other podcasts like FinTech Insider Podcast, which you can get on any of your streaming services. And I'll give you a good reason why a little bit later. I'll state it right now. Our guest that's going to be on today was on the show. I think that went out last Friday, if I remember right. Easily one of my favorite shows that we've done. So FinTech Insider, great podcast. If you haven't read our latest research report that we did together with Plaid about how open finance will shape the industry, then go find it on this link, bit.ly/open finance 2020. If you don't think open finance isn't important, then you haven't been paying attention to the news. You had Visa that acquired Plaid, and yesterday MasterCard made their move with Finicity, I believe that's how you say it, which leaves just MX out there. So Ryan Cadwell, love you guys. When you get acquired, you need to fly my ass out to Sundance again. And we will raise a toast to one of my favorite companies, MX. All right, first off, 3 news stories from the past 24 hours that caught my attention and should have yours. From the Financial Times, Zopa. I'm going to jump over to the UK. The oldest peer-to-peer lender has received a full banking license as it looks to mount a direct challenge to traditional banks and avoid the funding problems affecting many of its peers. The 15-year-old company will introduce the first savings accounts this week before expanding into credit cards in the fourth quarter. Zopa CEO said in an interview, "We never thought we'd be launching in such an extraordinary set of circumstances, but we believe that, if anything, these circumstances make the proposition even more relevant." The company currently provides car finance and personal loans on behalf of retail and institutional investors, but decided to pivot to banking in 2016 to access more stable ways to fund its loans. So in other words, 3 years, folks, 3 years to get that license. It's not easy. It's not overnight unless you're Lending Club and you just go out and buy Radius Bank. It's tough, okay? But good for Zopa, man. 15 years in the space, one of the dinosaurs, if you will, and that's a compliment, in my opinion. So good job to them. Second story, TechCrunch. They report Curve, the London fintech that's rebundling various financial products by letting you consolidate all your bank cards into a single card and app, is partnering with Samsung in the UK to power its forthcoming debit card, which is scheduled to launch later this year, dubbed Samsung Pay Card. Clever marketing. And obviously a bid by Samsung to better compete with Apple Wallet and Apple's own credit card launch. The product's being described as a digital payment solution that will give Samsung customers greater flexibility and control when managing their finances by offering a single view of spend, whilst also enabling a simple and secure way to pay. Just like Curve's direct offering, it also promises the ability to sync multiple loyalty and bank cards in one place for true digital wallet experience. Notably, at one point in this press release, the product is referred to as Samsung Pay Card powered by Curve. Should sound familiar, right? Looking at the Apple Card and what Marcus and Goldman Sachs did. So good on you, good partnership in my opinion. Well done. And finally, this story's for me, everybody. The Guardian reports Segway. Y'all remember Segway? Which boldly claimed its two-wheeled personal transporter would revolutionize the way people got around, is ending production of the Segway. The Segway PT, popular with tourists and basically overweight police officers, which perhaps better known for its high-profile crashes, will be retired on the 15th of July, the company said in a statement. The Segway, which carries a standing passenger and a wide platform, accelerated and accounted for less than 1.5% of the company's revenue last year. The company said 21 employees will be laid off, another 12 employees will stay on for 2 months to a year, and 5 will remain at the Bedford, New Hampshire facility. The transportation revolution that inventor Dean Kamen envisioned when he founded the company back in 1999 to incredible hype, by the way, never took off. The Segway's original price tag of around $5,000 was a hurdle for too many customers. And if y'all do remember, Dean, who is the inventor, did not die in a Segway, but the guy who bought the company actually died riding a Segway over a cliff. Not intentional. That's a true story. And at this point, Segway's gone. All right, folks, with that, let's get our guest on. Abby, great to have you here. Abby Wimmo is the co-founder of Ezusa, sitting in Harlem, one of my favorite neighborhoods, about 2 blocks from my niece. How you doing, Abby?
Doing very well, Sam. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm just very excited to be here.
And absolutely thrilled to have you on. Like I said, folks, go back and listen to FinTech Insider. We'll, Bianca, if you don't mind, throw the link in here for that one. That was a fantastic episode. And dang, we got somebody from India on. I love that. Riza Mohammed, I hope I said your name right. Thrilled to have you on. What part of India are you on? Pick us out in the comments and let us know. So is it in New York right now? What's the weather like?
Not bad, nice and sunny. So surviving out here, sequel to coronavirus, but things are getting better progressively.
Are you able to? Restaurants opened up somewhat, right? So you're able to go out in the street and eat.
You bet. Well, Harlem's strong, so we're definitely going out there, support businesses, Black businesses also. So just very exciting to be back again. Our thoughts and in prayers to all the other 22 plus countries around the United States going through tough times. We're increasing cases right now, but we're seeing some great progress in New York, thanks in good part to the leadership of the governor and the mayor.
Yeah, I agree. New York. I live in Florida. We are the opposite. We are cases skyrocketing here and in Texas. On a personal level, my oldest daughter tested positive yesterday.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. My son-in-law got tested this morning, and my 7-year-old granddaughter got tested this morning, and I am waiting for test results. So while I look calm and everything else, I'm actually pretty pissed off, everybody. It's just crappy news. So anyways, that's the situation in the U.S. right now. Let's talk about your company. One, what does the name mean? What's the origin of the name?
Good question, Sam. So Isusu is derived from a West African term, particularly in Nigeria, Yoruba culture. That's really wrapped up in if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. Why? Because our futures are tied together.
Love the name, love the concept. So what exactly is it that you focus on? What is the mission? Who are your customers?
So what we do at Isusu, Sam, is really simple. We capture rental data from large property managers and landlords, and then transform it in accordance with 4,200 rules and regulations in the United States and report it into the credit bureaus. You might ask why. The impact we have on folks is when you report that data, it helps improve your credit score. And just like if you have a mortgage, you get credit for paying those installments payments on a monthly basis. We think renters should have that opportunity also. Hence why we devised this method. So it's really simple. You pay your rent, your credit scores go up.
I never asked you this question before, and I should. I mean, I know you're based out of Harlem, so obviously a lot of your customers are in New York. Have you expanded beyond New York?
Yes, we're in 23 states, covering over 200,000 units. Landlords love to work with us because we're not only improving credit scores for folks, we're also helping them drive on-time payments, which is really, really exciting. It is this idea that, look, if the landlords are looking out for me and making sure my data is being reported, man, I'm going to make sure I pay on time also. So really exciting times for us.
So, and we've already got a comment, Paul Loberman. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Good to see Harry Kane score. I can't believe I just said that. But hey, Paul, y'all are better than us right this year. What can I say? But Paul just actually put a comment out here. The podcast, the one that you were on, Abby, with John Hope Bryant and Thea from the Financial Health Network, just said that was one of the best that I've heard in a long time. Also loved John Hope Bryant, but loved Abby's passion and articulation of the issues being tackled. Looking forward to hearing more today. Yeah, that was a great episode. It was very interesting, Abby, from your company and its perspective, right? I'm trying to build up this credit history and working with folks that are renting, combined with John Hope Bryant with Promise Homes. Right. Where the whole concept there is he buys property, he then rents them out to people, and when they continue to make great payments in their payment history and raises their credit score, right, he's able to work with them to get the credit score up, to lower the rent, and to actually make them homeowners eventually. Yep. So there's folks, there's stuff happening all across the U.S. The market is huge. Thrilled to see. One of the things I love the best, I sent a link out to an interview you did a couple of years ago talking about your background. So you're originally from Nigeria, right?
Correct. Yes.
And give us that story, because I love the story of you going to school and what you're able to accomplish. So if you don't mind, a little bit about your background story.
Absolutely, Sam. I'm actually serendipitous. I have with John's team, and I was really inspired by our last conversation. So we're talking actually at 11 a.m. So after this conversation,
tell my brother I said hello. Okay.
Yeah, he loves you. We love John. So, but just talk a little bit about my story. I grew up in the slums of Lagos, Nigeria. I lost my father at the age of 2, and I was raised by my spirited mother and 2 feisty sisters. One thing my mother believed in was just the power of a good education. My mom only had a high school degree, but afforded my school fees to one of the finest high schools in the land. I was able to go to school with, the former son of the president, and then, ministers' kids. And what that taught me was, regardless of who you are, if you put in the hard work and persevere, you can be wherever you want to be. So when my friends were going to the United States and England, I said I wanted to go. So I walked, paid for my SAT, studied, and then came from 78-degree weather in Minnesota, in Nigeria, to negative 22 degrees in Minnesota. Huge change, very, very cold on a January. And when I came here, my mother and I were just trying to live the American dream. Started my journey at the University of Minnesota, studying there, and then worked for the Obama re-election campaign, and went on to the corporate sector after graduate school at New York University, working at Accenture, Goldman Sachs, and PricewaterhouseCoopers doing mergers and acquisition. But what really drove me to Esusu was my experience coming to the United States. We tried to borrow money from one of the biggest banks, but we didn't have a credit score or a financial identity. So the bank turned us away, not because they were racist, because they couldn't underwrite risk. Right. So what happened was we walked down the streets and borrowed money from a predatory lender at over 400% interest rates. And that's the reason why we founded it. And that simple premise, regardless of where you come from, what you look like, or your zip code, that shouldn't determine where you end up in life or the opportunities that are exposed to you. But that's the unfortunate reality we have here today.
For those listeners that aren't familiar with Minnesota, Minneapolis, for example, this is where the incident with the murder of George Floyd. Sorry, I just correct myself there. The murder of George Floyd took place. Minnesota is a fascinating state. It is actually quite liberal. It's independent, probably an even better way to put it. People from Minnesota are very interesting. This is the state that had Jesse Ventura, the wrestler, as their governor. We'll just leave it there, okay? But Minnesota is even more interesting. Massive Somalian population in Minnesota. And incredibly, you wouldn't think this when you think of a northern city in Minnesota having a large African-based population. Right. It does, right? It massively does. And for you to come over from, and when we say the slums of Nigeria, I grew up in the not greatest part of Detroit, which the reality is where I grew up would be considered in most other countries high end.
Hmm.
I mean, you know that, Abby. I mean, it's just flat out, right?
Oh yeah.
It's and so the concept of having a mother and sisters that motivated you. Abby kind of said it. I'll say it for him. You were a straight A student, straight up.
Nope. I'll tell you, in Nigeria, I wasn't a straight A student. I wasn't. I was very entrepreneurial, but when I came to the United States, I became a straight A student.
There you go.
Because you have to understand what
Makes
happened.
sense.
What happened with me in Nigeria is I used to commute close to 2 hours to school every day when I left
How
boarding house.
was
You
it walking, truck?
walk for like 25 minutes, catch the bus, and then multiple buses before you get to school. Because remember, I was going to school in a different zip code.
Yeah.
In the United States, if you do that, it's a crime. But to get that
Well,
education,
it's a crime dependent on your social status. It's a crime if you're a
right,
single mother homeless in Texas and you go to
right,
jail for 5 years and you're black.
exactly.
If you're a Hollywood movie star, it's a slap on the wrist.
Well, if you think about my predicament and growing up where I grew up, it's going to be a crime if I were in the United States. But just having the opportunity to just commute and then just do the work. So that that stress of not being able to study. I also didn't grow up with electricity. I just read a lot. So when I came to the United States and was less than 10 minutes from my class, from dorms, I'm like, this is insane. I couldn't stop reading. I couldn't stop studying. They paid me to do research. I'm like, this is great. This is amazing. So I just seized all the opportunities that were afforded, and I really do believe America is a great country. I really believe we can make sure it is more perfect. But what we do need to do, in light of everything going on, Sam, is we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say the foundation on which we've built this country needs some real enforcement, real solid base, because we've built it on a sinking sand. And until we look ourselves in the mirror and say, look, we need to think about the scars of slavery. We need to think about the effects of what? We need to think about Jim Crow, the legacies of Jim Crow. We need to think about the federal housing discrimination on Black people in this country. And look, when we did the Civil Rights Act, right, a lot of people are benefiting.
Yeah.
So when we do the right thing, we can move forward together as a country, and we should be more optimistic because America hasn't even reached its potential. And we're still the greatest nation on the surface of this earth. But think about when we reach that true potential. The sky is not just the limits. It's going to be the beginning, Sam.
Yeah, we talk a lot about this. There's been movies, for example, about supposedly the capacity of our brains that we use, right? The small capacity of the human brain that's being used. It's a great analogy for the small capacity of the resources we have here in the U.S. from individuals, from people, from different people groups.
Right.
And it's something that we can just make this country so much greater once we do move forward. One of the things I love about your product is the idea of taking people and they're paying rent. They are paying bills, but using that data to improve their credit score, right? So you've got help me if I'm off here, Abby, but I think we got like 45 million people in the U.S. Potentially impacted by this concept of the credit score. I think without credit scores as a whole. So how do you work? So I know you're working with the landlords and everything else. How does this walk me through the process? How does this improve their credit scoring?
Right. So Sam, the number actually has ticked up to 59 million.
Of course it has.
Unfortunately. So just tactically, let me walk you through our process. So what we do is work with landlords. We go to a landlord and say, hey, you have 10,000 tenants, for example. Let's work with you to report the rental data and drive value for you. So our process is simple. We connect to the landlord accounting system. So you have a big accounting system that covers the majority of the 62 million units we have in the United States today. And then we capture that data, transform it in accordance with 4,200 rules and regulation. I know you talked about at the beginning of the show how long it took for that company to get its license. It took us 36 months to get our licenses from the credit rating agencies. And it's because to do their due diligence, make sure we are doing the right thing, and we support that. And then after that, we capture that data and report that data. You might ask, why is this important, right? Like, what's the purpose of it? When we think about the 59 million people that don't have a financial identity today, Sam, just imagine the average debt in the United States is $135,000.
Jeez.
Let's do that simple math. No complex, market size in here. We multiply 59 million times 135,000. You know how much we can unlock for the American economy? Close to $12 trillion.
Wow.
That's not just a charity case. That is exceptional for the capital we can unlock for this economy. And that's good for everyone. More people will be hired, more opportunities will be created, and more prosperity. And the value we're driving for our landlord is threefold. When we report this data, people tend to pay on time because people say it like, wow, this is going to impact my credit score. So they're compelled to pay on time. Research from TransUnion shows that 7 out of 10 renters will pay on time if this data has been reported. Number two, we don't stop there. If a tenant cannot pay their rent, we connect them with 0 to 5% interest loans. So these people are not kicked out. And we as a society are not solving homelessness. So for us, we're very, very excited. And, it's just been a lot of tremendous impact since we started this company. It's not rhetoric. You're seeing the impact in everyday people's lives.
So a great question. This builds on what you just talked about, Abby,
Right.
from Corey LeBlanc. Corey's with Origin Bank in Ruston, Louisiana.
Yep.
Hey, yeah, great guy. Corey said, with the wealth gap that exists today among minorities not decreasing, and Corey put it politely, desired rate.
Right.
And I know Corey, so I know what he actually had typed initially and then went back and politely changed that. Can you speak to how your company is helping promote an increased investment literacy and help guide future generations to a healthier and equal financial life? I talked about this yesterday in a podcast I did about it is one thing to create solutions for to create apps for people when it comes around their financial lives.
Right.
It's another to make sure they understand what they're doing. And and what I meant by that is I used Robinhood as an example. This, the poor kid that committed suicide,
right?
Because he had no clue what he was doing. He was flat out using an investment app that he didn't know what to do. And I think Robinhood, by the way, is taking great steps to address that and quickly as they should. So can you talk about that aspect a little bit, Abby?
Right. Corey, you have a great point. The income wealth gap between whites and blacks today is 10 times. The average white family has $171,000 in wealth, and the average black family is 17,000. Why? Because under the Federal Housing Authority discriminated black people from getting access to loans. The biggest driver of wealth in the United States today is home ownership. So that's the core fundamental issue. Now,
go back and look up, everybody, where the term red line came from. We'll just
precisely. That's another podcast. Number two, let's think about the things we need to do. So if you think about the impacts we're having in the lives of our current tenants or user base, is if someone does not have a credit score, it will cost them an interest of over $250,000 over their lifetime. Like, that's fact.
Yeah.
Right. We capture this data. We help people establish credit score 100% of the time. If you don't have anything on your file, like my mother and I, when we came to this country, that data will be established and you can lend. We establish credit scores on an average, range from 620, it can be as high as 720 sometimes. So that delta is there. When we talk about the financial literacy, in partnership with Equifax, we can display credit scores to folks and say, hey, this is your credit score. These are the important factors with all the right disclaimers. And you know what is driving that number going up or down. A lot of times when people understand what the credit score means is when you're trying to go buy, a car or your first home. And you're like, wow, what is this on my report? But that data has been captured. So we do a good job of making sure we democratize that access. Go to the App Store, download Esusu Rent on the App Store. You get your credit score for free. No strings attached. That's one of our commitments to folks. Just understand more about your financial health. And from there, if you want us to do other strategic stuff with you or refer you to other folks within the marketplace, and we do that unequivocally. So for us, it's a comprehensive solution, but you cannot fix what you can measure. That's why we always start with the issue and drive it through execution.
Paul Loberman asked a good question. In the UK, the government initiated a rent recognition challenge to enable tenants to share rental payment data with lenders and credit reference agencies. Does the US government help your company by recognizing this need and ability and champion its use, or is it all down to you making individual connections?
Fantastic questions. The US government has been doing their bits on the federal level. There are legislations on the finance and banking community, which we are opining on with different civil society organizations, bipartisan legislation. So this is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democrat issue. Folks are working across the aisle to make this happen. In some states like California, there are legislations. Boston already has a measure in place. Washington, D.C., we're working with some folks out west. So there's a huge policy base on this. And then in February, actually, HUD put out a report with Esusu as the only private company listed as one of the credible sources to report rental data. And it said unequivocally, it is impacting people's credit line. So the government is doing their bit. I think we can take it a step further and incentivize people to report this data, because when we have a critical mass, we have the opportunity not to leave people behind.
I just got the goosebumps going. That's pretty good. Nice job. All right, last question before we got to go. This comes from Siddhar out in San Francisco. Ample research suggests that credit score algorithms, the laws driving allowed factors in credit decisioning, all contribute to bias that hurts those most disadvantaged. So big picture question is credit issuance a small data question that should only consider an individual's credit history, or should be a big data problem that considers other factors like, their location, their background, everything else?
It's a great question, and I'll quote one American president. I won't say his name. America is too big for small dreams. Let's go big, like you rightfully alluded to. Let's go big and understand the breadth of the data we're thinking about. Let's think about location data. Let's think about rent data. Let's think about utility data. But then let's bring the policymakers, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, to institute laws to police folks that want to use it for bad use. And then let's get legislation passed through Congress and make sure we all agree on the standards at which we're playing with. So once we have a level playing field, I'm running off the same playbook. What we can do then is think about the strategic nature of issuance and making sure we don't leave people behind. These systems were created, number one, when people were left behind and discriminated against. So that's what we need to do. It is a force. The answer to your question is yes, big data. 2, public policy. 3, collaborative efforts, just like what Esusu is really deep rooted in. Collaborative, strong partnership, and that's how we unlock equity and by not leaving anyone behind.
So everybody, I'm going to leave you with one thought. I kicked open the show telling everybody that the Disney Plus is carrying Hamilton, the play, on July 3rd. Come down to Jacksonville. You can watch it at my house and sing along. But one of my favorite lines in that play is Hamilton talking to Marquis de Lafayette, where they say, "Immigrants, we get the jobs done." I can't say what I want to say right now. Everybody want to guess what I'm thinking. So that said, Abby, loved having you on. Where's the best place if folks want to reach out to you and if they want to learn more about Esusu?
Thanks, if you want to learn more about Esusu, you can go to esusurent.com. And if you want to reach out to me, I am on Twitter, Wemimo, WEMIMO 11, or you can just shoot me an email at abby@esusu.org.
All right, and make sure you tell John I said hey. Everybody, tomorrow on the show, we got Kareem Dirhali, and I slaughtered his name. I'm so sorry, but he's the CEO of Investor. So that one will definitely be an interesting show. Make sure you're here, same time, same place. As always, you can reach out to me if you have any guest suggestions or you just want to talk. At Sam Mall on Twitter, Sam at 11FS. Ping me on LinkedIn. Drive down to Jacksonville. Come watch a show with me. Or you can ping us at breakfastshow@11fs.com. Everybody, thanks for joining. Great questions today, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.